Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Edie Summers and coming to you from my Facebook page. And this is my first video interview with my dear friend and colleague, Joy Leng. And I've done podcasts, as some of you know, but this is my first video interview. And Joy and I tried to do a podcast earlier, and we were unsuccessful. So now we're here. We just switched to Facebook, and I think that was a good call, Joy. so thanks for watching, everyone. And again, this is Joy Leng, as you can see, and she's the author of The She Pathway. And this is your second book, Joy, I know, right? Your first book was From Zero to Shakti, which is amazing. And now this is a companion workbook, right, to your second book, The She Pathway. So thanks for being here, Joy. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie, for inviting me. I'm so glad to chat with you again. How long has it been since our first interview?
It's been a while. It's been a couple of years. And I know it's so lovely to connect with you again. And yeah, I'm really glad that you have this amazing a way to connect through StreamYard. Thank goodness. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. And so Joy, let's get right into it. So I want to ask you, so in the past, you called yourself a women's empowerment coach, and now you're called a story smasher and a positive hypnotherapist. And can you share what that means for everybody?
Yes, so, well, basically, firstly is branding, and I guess I'm just being fanciful here. But I'm a lover of words. That's why, I've been writing books, and I think that words matter, and people need a mental hook to make it easy for them to remember what they are really about. So, why I call myself a story smasher and a positive hypnotherapist? Firstly, because in my first book, I talk about how I made a lot of effort. I took massive action to smash a self-limiting story that I have, that I'm unworthy and unlovable. And so I went on a journey to heal myself, to take responsibility for my life. So moving forward, it's been some years now since my first book. So I dedicate my life pretty much to supporting women to smash those limiting stories that they are holding themselves hostage, and to anchor in strengths-based identity, because that's what I did for myself. So when I was trying to think of how exactly to express what I'm trying to do here, somehow this word just came to my mind: story smasher. Like the energy of the word smash, it's like, and our branding is capital SMASH exclamation mark and an ER. And I don't know. I guess the one of my superpowers, according to the character strengths assessment, is creativity. So I guess I just activated it. And for positive hypnotherapist, actually, it's a very simple explanation behind it. Positive here is because of my positive psychology background, and hypnotherapist is because of my training with Marisa Peer for RT2, Rapid Transformational Therapy. So I'm very passionate about supporting people in what I call strength-based whole brain living. Why tap on only 10% of your conscious mind when you can also activate the 90% of your subconscious mind to bring you to where you want to in life and to become the person you are meant to be? So positive hypnotherapist here basically just simply means that I'm using positive psychology and hypnotherapy to help you to embrace and celebrate strengths-based whole brain living.
I love that, Joy. And so and it is, in case anyone, you have a fascinating backstory too. And of course, I love positive psychology. I was introduced to that a little bit. So I think that's so amazing that you're doing that. And if you ever feel like sharing a little bit of your backstory here, just let me know, because it's really fascinating. I know you were talking about, so you said you kind of are using strength-based psychology to go from, in your experience, not feeling worthy, right, to one of your strengths is creativity. And then of course everyone has their own strengths, right? So you help people uncover what their strengths are. So so then my next question for you is, So how did your first autobiography lead? So maybe this is a natural question. How did it lead to your upcoming second book, The She Pathway?
So in the first book, it was an autobiography, and this is a cute story that I love sharing because it was one of my childhood ambition to be an author, but I didn't plan to write this autobiography. So I became an accidental author. Really, I was just trying to capture my journey going to America, going to Sedona, doing my warrior goddess training, and doing the firewalk in the desert with 50 other women that I've never met. This was a very personal pilgrimage, and I wanted to record this very important journey when I came back to Singapore because I was not able to do that when I was there. I was so tired every night. So I spent 2, 3 days just trying to record everything that I could from my journey, and I parked it one side. But then one fine day, and I still remember the moment I was in the kitchen with a knife chopping fruits, and I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember who, and this idea just dropped in my head, and I there was an idea that said that I've written a book. And I remember in my shock holding the knife, and I actually verbalized, even though I was alone at home, what? I wrote a book. So it was a really funny moment. So I remember it until today. But the idea was so compelling that I dropped the knife, went to my room, and opened my laptop, and then stare at the journal that I've written for myself, and like, really, it's a book, cool, read it, and why would it be a book? And all that questions keep coming in. I was so excited, but then I didn't want it to be a book just because it was my childhood ambition, and I wanted it to be a book because it has a meaning and it has a purpose. So when I asked myself what would be the purpose of the book, I mean, if it was going to be a book, and I had no answer, and because I had no answer, I refused to pursue that track. So for 2 days, I couldn't sleep. I was trying to find an answer to see if there is an answer to this question. And one day when I woke up, immediately I knew in my heart that the purpose of the book is that if it can inspire even just one woman to take responsibility for their own life, for their own self-healing and empowerment, then I think the book has done its purpose. Then I think, yes, it's justifiable to make it into a book. So with that answer in my heart, then it became very clear to me. Then I went and proceed to make that a reality. But it wasn't meant to be a book. It was my journal. So the words are simple. I didn't write to impress. There's no bombastic words there because I was just writing for myself, which turned out to be a blessing because I get feedback that it's so easy to read. People can read it in 2, 3 hours because the words are so simple, and they always feel very caught up. Some people meant to read one chapter and put down the book, but they end up reading the entire book in an afternoon. So some fascinating stories. Um, and after I wrote the book, and it's been like 3, 4 years since I published the book, and then it occurred to me that people find it inspiring, but then maybe to them it's like an inspirational read, but then once they finish it, they put it down, they continue with their life, nothing changed. It was just an inspirational read. And I wanted to take the next step. I didn't want it to be just an inspirational read. I wanted to show people the tools, how you can do that for yourself as well, how you can start your own journey, because some of the readers, maybe they are inspired but they don't know what to do, what's the next step. So for some years it's already in my heart that I wanted to write the next book, and it's like a companion playbook, a book that tells you the how, the really important part. It's not my story, it's how you create your own story. And then I started the She Network, which is a community for women, and it just somehow, and I love the Hope Theory by Dr. Reed Snyder. So it was meant to be another title, but after I did positive psychology and started She Network, then suddenly it became very apparent to me. The name of the next book is called The She Pathway.
I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's how it came about. I think everything was very organic, and I was really just following the sign and trusting my own intuition, listening to my heart, telling me what to do next. Because remember, even from the very beginning, I didn't even know it was going to be a book.
That's amazing, Joy. And I love that one is very personal. So again, Joy's first book is called From Zero to Shakti, and it's very personal. And like you said, it came from your journal. But then you wrote a companion workbook to it called The She Pathway, which is brilliant. They're both brilliant titles. And that's really to help other people find their way, right? To make it kind of like well, we're going to talk about this next, like what's in the She pathway, like the 6 pillars. So if you could answer that for me, what are the 6 pillars in the She pathway? And then, how does, let's dive deeper into that.
Awesome. Thanks for asking, Edith. This is one of my favorite questions at the moment because that's what I'm really focusing on right now. So the She Pathway is really a very useful framework for self-healing and empowerment, and it's based on research and techniques from positive psychology and psychotherapy, and of course my own personal life experience. So I think that one thing I want to highlight is that since I'm a women empowerment coach and the founder of She Network, so much of my focus at the moment is on empowering women. And that is really the only reason why it is called the She Pathway. Actually, it is a gender neutral framework, and it is a tool that any conscious human willing to do their inner work can apply. So the broad overview of the 6 pillars is based on the alphabet SHE. So the 6 pillars are surrender, strength, help, hope, elevate, and execute. So the first pillar is surrender. I think that before we can do anything, we need to be aware of the limiting stories that we are holding on to and that we are acting out in real life in the world because we are being triggered by these self-limiting stories that we have embraced. So these stories can come in the form of disempowering beliefs about ourselves, about the world, or about other people. And some of it can be so deeply ingrained that it's tied to our identity. So, like in my autobiography, that's exactly what happened. In From Zero to Shakti, I revealed how I took like committed and massive action to smash this 30 years old limiting story that I am unworthy and unlovable. I think that we all have our own different version of unworthiness. So, what kind of story have you been churning in your head and and reacting in real life? So before I took the action, that story was my identity for all of my teenager and my adult years. So only when you are aware of your limiting story, then you can surrender your stories, because you cannot give up what you don't know that you have. So only by surrendering your limiting stories, then you can stop that persistent internal war that you have with yourself and perhaps with the world as well, and begin your first step into your own inner peace journey. And I think with inner peace comes empowerment. The
Definitely.
second pillar is strength. So I always love the analogy of the phoenix, and that's also something that I shared briefly in my first book. A phoenix needs to die, needs to be willing to die in order for rebirth to be possible. So, likewise, only when you surrender your limiting stories and allow your old self in your old limiting ways of being to die, only then can your new life begin. And with rebirth, then you can work on building up your stronger self, learning what are your inner strengths, taking strengths assessment that is scientific based, and learning how to expand that external reservoir of support that you have to raise yourself. So also tapping on the superpowers that other people have. And by building on your stronger self, then now you are ready to wire in strengths based identity. Now that you have smashed your limiting stories, you can now replace it with a strengths based identity with more empowering beliefs about yourself and the world. And then when you are your stronger self, you're naturally feeling more empowered, then you can support the outer peace that perhaps the world needs right now. But we have to do the work on ourselves first. And the third pillar is help. So I think this is a huge piece, especially for women. We seem to want to do everything by ourselves. We want to juggle everything and want to have the same quality for everything. It's not sustainable because we're all just human. So you need to be able to ask for help, tap on the superpowers around you when you need it, and to understand that to ask for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a courageous act. It is an act of self love. So, when you are able to allow yourself to seek help, that's when you naturally become stronger as well. And the fourth pillar is hope. So, when you have hope, then so many other good qualities comes in: optimism, faith, the desire, action, momentum, and consistency. Without hope, then nothing happens. So Dr. Rick Snyder created the hope theory, and he defined hope as the rainbow of the mind. And I really love this
That's
definition.
amazing.
Yes, visually is very arresting. And so I
Mhm.
think hope is an essential component in our pursuit for positive change. So
Mhm.
if we want to do work on healing and empowering ourselves, then we need to have hope that whatever that we are doing, we truly believe that it's possible. So you need to find what are the things that can give you hope and who are the people that can inspire hope for you. The fifth pillar is elevate. Life is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So we want to be able to go the distance. So we need to have strategies that we can do that will give us sustainable well-being, and not that, like, oh, we go for an inspirational motivational seminar, we're so inspired and on fire for one weekend, and then 1 month later everything goes back to the same. Like, sounds familiar. I'm guilty of it for some years. So you need more sustainable strategy so that you can constantly elevate yourself. So you need to know, okay, so what is that hope filled action that I can activate? How can I use my strengths in a more enduring way? And how can I make sure that those limiting stories that I have smashed don't come back and haunt me, because that will not
Mhm.
elevate you, that will actually do the opposite for you. It will bring you down. So, like, these are the questions that the answers to this question lie the key to how you can elevate yourself so that you can go the distance.
Mhm.
Um, so I think this is an important piece that sometimes is missing in people's journey to self empowerment. They just keep thinking that it's a sprint. They're excited, they're inspired for a short term, and then it goes all the way down. And then they wonder, oh, what's wrong with me? And then they start going building new limiting stories again. So, like, I think the fifth pillar is important in that sense. It's tend to be the missing link for a lot of people when they attempt to empower themselves. So the last pillar is execute. So we've done a lot of self-discovery. There's a lot of self-awareness, and then we learn about, oh, limiting stories, and we learn about, okay, I need sustainable strategies. But all this is just talk and just thinking in your head. Ultimately, if there is no action, nothing happens. There is no healing. So that's the reason why the sixth pillar is obviously a very important piece as well. Action. You need to execute. You need to bring to life what you have discovered, and you need to rectify whatever that needs to be rectified. To move the needle, we need to act. So we need to decide what is that hope-filled action that I am going to take, and I will commit to taking for my own self-healing and my own empowerment, and how I can, like, when you do the work for yourself, you indirectly also give other people around you the permission to do the same for themselves. So that is my long answer to the six pillars in the halfway.
It's amazing. And those are really important. Those are all very, very important steps. And yeah, I love so and you obviously you have a program, and we're going to be talking about how people can get connected with you very soon here. So yeah, it's and again, I really love so you have the She Pathway for the book, and then the She Network. That's so we're going to talk about that next. You started She Network in December of 2019, and then recently you launched it into a full-fledged community housed inside of a Facebook group. And so, could you tell us more about the She community, Joy?
So we started She Network in December 2019. I was doing an emotional intelligence certification then, and I met this lady, this African lady called Laura, and we got along really well. But then we connected because we were both into women empowerment, and I had my book, and she was writing her first book. So, but we lost touch for a short while. Then we were reconnected because another of our classmates wanted to do a women empowerment program together. So then when we reconnected, we had to spend some time together to sort out our content. And that was when I was reminded how much I like this person. And so I was it was really spontaneous. I had no plan of doing anything like that. But somehow when I look at her, I was just like, hey, she's into women empowerment, and I would love to start something someday. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll ask her. But then I thought, okay, that might frighten her because that is so sudden, and we kind of like, still. I mean, we're not a stranger, but we also kind of still recently only got back together. But I couldn't resist it, and the next day we had to meet again for our to discuss our content. And I just blurted out, and I just said, "Hey, actually, would you be keen to start a woman network of sorts with me?" And I thought, like, okay, obviously she's gonna say no. This is like so random and shocking, right? And she just said, "Yeah, okay, I'll love to." And I was just like. I'm starting a she that work with in Malaysia with an African lady. I'm like, wow, really international because I'm Singaporean, and that's how She Network was born. So because of the amazing randomness that it was born, it feels like it's meant to be. And then we did the International Women's Day at Man Cave, which is a place that has a lot of superheroes, characters, and collectibles. It was a really fun day. That was our first event. Unfortunately, after that was a lockdown. The pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and so then for some months everybody's really busy with their own situation. So I but She Network was always at the back of my mind because hey, we started something, and then it got halted. So then I told Laura, like, okay, so maybe face to face is not a good idea right now, but I really want to keep the momentum. So how about let's just do something online? So it seems quite apparent to me like a Facebook group would be the easiest way to proceed if we don't want to wait for the pandemic to end, because we don't know how long it's going to take. And she was very open to it. And I said, I really want to get serious about serving our community. I want to know who are our members. Well, it's very challenging when you only have a Facebook page. You don't know who come in and who goes out, right? But when you have a Facebook group, you know exactly who's
Right.
inside, and you can ask them what they need and you can serve them. So that kind of started why we started. We said, okay, let's do a launch. Let's do a Facebook community launch. So it was quite weird for me, like Facebook group need to do launch. So but I thought like, okay, I mean, it's a unprecedented times. I guess we need innovative
Yeah.
solution, and we need an open mind. So I like, okay, let's launch a Facebook group. So that started the whole thing. Yeah.
Necessity kind of breeds invention, and then also collaboration is really powerful. So I think
Very.
it takes everyone to the next level when you collaborate. So congratulations for doing that. Yeah, that's
Thank
really
you.
awesome. and then okay, so you mentioned in here that the She Pathway is meant to be a book and also a women's empowerment program, like you were just mentioning. So you also have a collaboration version of the She program that's called Strong and Sassy. So could you tell us more about Strong and Sassy?
Okay. I love to talk about strong and sassy. So we actually have a post. This is our strong and sassy post. So if you see
Wow.
the lotus logo on my backdrop, so that's the strong and sassy. It's like we want women to blossom like the beautiful lotus, and a beautiful lotus is always doing their blossoming in like the most unimaginable condition, dirty waters, and that's exactly why we're using that as our symbol. I think it's a very, very powerful symbol. So this is a collaboration with another women empowerment coach called Carol, and she was my student when I started the pole dancing studio in Singapore in 2015. So it's an amazing story. She came for a trial pole class and then she left, and then I didn't hear from her. 14 years later, this year, she suddenly out of the blue text me on Facebook to thank me for the class that she took
Wow.
14 years ago. And I was like, right, like I'm living a very different life now. I've closed my studio and I'm doing more positive psychology and hypnotherapy work. And I was like, gosh, that's a thank you note from 14 years ago. So it was really powerful. So we connected because of her gratitude. And then I was amazed that, wow, you are now a confident coach for women, and also a co-author of a book with Les Brown. So I was like, so much have happened
My God.
since then. Yes.
Amazing.
And also, what I didn't know, the backstory was that when she came for my class that time, she was in an abusive marriage, and the pole dance class, and together with some other things that was going on in her life during that point, spark in her the motivation to remove herself from this disempowering situation.
Mhm.
And so it helped push her in the right direction. And today she's not only happily married, she has 3 kids, and she's a confident coach for women and a co-author with Les Brown. I was like, I didn't know all that happened, right? Like, so it's like the power of planting seeds. When you do good out there, you may not know what happened, right? But like, just believe that your work has a calling, and there's a destiny for you. You just have to show up and do your job. Because I have no idea that she was in an abusive marriage, so it was pretty amazing. So we connected, and then I thought, hey, we're doing similar stuff. We should do things together. And so that's kind of, so I invited her to be our in-house expert for beauty for She Network, because what she did to empower herself during that time was she started to go for makeup lessons, image deportment classes, so that she can feel good about herself, and that supported her self-esteem work. And today she's supporting women using the same tools that she supported herself then. So I was really inspired by what she did, and I thought, hey, join She Network, be our in-house expert for beauty. She said yes, and then so that kind of like started our collaborative energy. And then when I shared with her about the She Pathway, she loved the 6 pillars. And then she said, so I said, hey, you know what? Let's do something together. You have all these fancy tools that can make the program fun. So let's do a different version of the She Pathway, and let's include your skills and your abilities. So that's when we decide, okay, so what would be the name of the program? And I had no idea. I just thought, how about Strong and Sassy? It was pretty random,
It's like,
but we love it, and we said, okay, let's go.
those are both good. Those are both really good. Strong and sassy. I like both. Yeah, it's true. You never know. You never know the impact you're going to have on someone. So that's why it's so important to help and show up, because it's like a legacy that you leave, right? It just continues and continues. So that's amazing, Joy. And so then also, so some of our listeners may have heard you mention briefly that you had a pole dancing studio in Singapore. That's where you're broadcasting from, by the way. So I'm broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, and Joy is in Singapore. Isn't that amazing? I definitely want to visit because it just looks absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, so Joy, so from starting one of the first pole dancing studios in Singapore in 2005, to writing your autobiography, and then to being an RTT hypnotherapist and positive psychology coach, to starting She Network, and now writing the She Pathway book. How do you feel about your journey so far?
I feel surreal hearing you say that. My brain needed to process it.
It's a long, big journey.
Yeah, wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I think it's pretty amazing to me when I look back. I feel very privileged for the journey, the amazing lifetime. Almost feel like a several lifetime. Like from pole dancing to author to hypnotherapy to positive psychology to women empowerment, and then going back to authorship. I just feel a lot of gratitude for even what happened to me when I was young, because
Mm.
it doesn't matter what I do, it's always about empowering people, whether it's a pole dancing studio or writing a book or starting a network or hypnotherapy or positive psychology. My heart is always there's always one same singular purpose, which is to empower people. And of course, in particularly, I'm very passionate about women empowerment. I think because of what happened to me when I was young, having a so-called challenging childhood, I think it really instilled in me this lifelong passion to support people in their own healing, and to support people to take responsibility for their own life. Because I think doesn't matter who was it who hurt you. At the end of the day, self-healing is your responsibility. If you're going to wait for someone to come back to you to apologize before your life can start again, then you're wasting your life, and you are not taking control. You're not having your personal power. You gave it away. So, and also I think because of the pain that I went through when I was a child, um, I have this desire to, as much as I can, support people so that they don't have to go through the pain that I went through. Or if they are going through similar pains, I want to be able to help them, teach them the tools that they can use to get themselves to a better place and to become better versions of themselves. Like, to be honest, I don't I'm whatever that happened to me when I'm young, I'm actually very grateful for it because it made me stronger and it brought me to this amazing journey. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe I'm actually a very boring person. Maybe I'm an administrator in some
I doubt that.
shipping company or something like that. And I only think about high tea and shopping and sale, like, so I might become a very different person if not because of the starting point, which was a challenging childhood. So I wouldn't want to be that for that Joy, be like so boring, my God. So I'm grateful for what happened to me. I think it made me stronger. It made me into this person that I'm very proud of. It's been a long journey.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. And Joy, are you open to sharing a little bit more about what happened when you were young, or it's totally up to you? I know that you talk about that in my podcast. It's up to you.
Sure. It's already a book, so happy to share it.
Sure, sure.
So basically, the simple story is when I was young, my mother and basically my father cheated on my mom and they divorced, and then my mom was going to remarry, and I have a younger sister. So for Asian women to remarry at that during that time is a huge thing, and there's a lot of stigma that goes along with it, and to remarry with not just one girl but two girls, that's even like that's even more challenging because it's not a boy and she has two girls. So I guess that was the reason why she decided that she wants to give me up for adoption. I'm the eldest as well, so my grandmother intervened, and my grandmother suggested that to give me to her sister, which was my auntie, so that I remained within the family. So I guess my grandmother wanted to protect me, and she agreed, and so that's what transpired. My auntie became my mom, and I was a young child and nobody really explained to me what was happening. So I was happy, but I could feel that something was not right, but I didn't understand. I mean, my small brain couldn't comprehend what's going on, but I just felt something was not right. So I remained confused for some time, and I guess one day suddenly my brain just joined the dots, and I call it the day that my world went black because I finally understood. But I was bewildered, like why would my mom do that? Like, I was a small child and I was like, why? So I was trying to understand and trying to find a reason. So that small girl with whatever limited cognitive abilities that she had came up with this story that, oh, I must be that unlovable, I must be that unworthy for mommy to give me up like that. And that story stuck to me because it made sense, right? Like, I still needed logic even though I was a small girl, and it makes sense. And I took it as identity, and I took it as identity for 30 over years. And I actually had no idea until I did my life coaching course. And because of that, we had to do role play and we had to ask all these like questions that we're supposed to ask our client. Then suddenly all the skeletons in my closet start appearing, and I was like, oh my gosh. I had no idea that I had all this skeleton. So that started my journey, and that was when it was revealed to me. And that was when I realized that that was what was motivating my behavior, because I was always chasing the next certification. I had this thing for accomplishment, and it will feel good for a while, and then after that, I don't feel good anymore, and then I'm chasing the next one. So on the outside, I look good, right? Like, wow, Joy is so learned, and she has so many certification, and she's so passionate and aggressive, and she's such a learner. So I also thought that way about myself because the world is telling me that, and I thought that way. But then when I did the life coaching course, and then that's when I realized that I was coming from a place of lack. And I was trying to use those certifications to justify my self-worth, that I'm worth something, but I didn't know. And so for 30 over years, I was so proud that I was such an intelligent person and so on and so forth. But I was triggered and I was reacting to a limiting story. I didn't do it because I enjoyed learning, but it came more from trying to fill a gap in my heart. That's why it's like putting handy plus when you really need to treat the wound, but I just keep putting different handy plus. That's why it didn't feel good for long. Every time I finish a certification, it just feel good for a week, and then that feeling of that the emptiness comes back again, and I'm chasing the next thing. So because of that self-awareness, that's also one of the pivotal point that got me to do the warrior goddess training and got me to go to Sedona, and that started the book, and that kind of sparked my whole journey. It was that self-awareness piece, right? I took action on that self-awareness piece, and then my whole life then came like become like that. So I guess I'm really like from own life experience sharing and telling people self-awareness is really powerful. It's the first
Definitely.
piece, but without action, it's just self-awareness. You need to take responsibility to heal yourself, take that seriously, and take the first action.
Wow, that was really powerful, Joy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it is true. I guess self-awareness is the first step, and then letting go, becoming aware of your story, then letting go of it, and then taking action. And I love how you focus on strengths, because focusing on strengths just feels good. And I love all your images of like, having your superpowers. Your superpowers are your strengths, right? And yeah, the
That's a super powerful.
I love that. So Joy, so you are going to be one of the speakers for Peace, the Pulse of Humanity Conference 2020. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's so cool. And so what will you be sharing in this international conference? And then how can people get access to this free online peace conference?
So they have a series of experts, speakers that they are interviewing, and I'm one of them. I agreed. I felt very privileged to be invited. I was actually taken by surprise. So thank you so much, Rob, for the invitation. And I was interviewed by lovely Mimi. I felt very honored and very is very significant to be part of this international movement talking about peace. It's a very much needed conversation piece right now for humanity. I think that we need to come together, and there's also a lot of unrest in various forms in different parts of the world. I think that we really need to work on activating our own inner peace. So this conference has a beautiful saying how like when individuals have inner peace, then then outer peace is made possible, and I think that's very true. So in the conference, I shared about the she pathway, of course, the six pillars, which I think is can be a very powerful tool to take your first step towards inner peace. And by taking that first step towards inner peace, you are already activating outer peace. I think if all of us take responsibility for our own inner peace, then we can show up in the world, in a calm state as our strongest self, and then together as a group of people who are calm and showing up as our strongest self, then we can really make the world a better place. So I feel very glad to be part of this conference. So in addition to my own efforts using positive psychology with the book, with She Never, and everything else I'm doing, to be part of this, play a small part in this big collective effort makes everything feels very powerful, and it's really so in alignment with what I do anyway, day in, day out.
Definitely. And that is such a great honor. So I'm so glad they contacted you. And and then how can people get access to this free online peace conference? Did you already
So
order?
so I will share a link on the comment tab of this interview, so you can like go and sign up there. So in fact, I'll share it right now. Yeah, so you can check out the link on the comment tab and sign up. It's free, so please join in and invite your friends. Let's all be part of this conversation about peace.
Definitely. Thank you, Joy, for doing that. And then do you have any last words of advice for women in their journey to becoming strong and sassy?
uh,
My lotus again.
well, I think first and foremost, remember that it is your birthright. Actually, in this program, we are not teaching you how to be strong and sassy. We are reminding you that you are strong and sassy. I think that's a very important distinction. We're reminding you that you are innately strong and sassy. This is your birthright, and you need to activate it, celebrate it. And if you have a barrier to being that self, your authentic self, that's where we come in to support you with our program, with Strong and Sassy. But really, like, we don't have to teach you anything. I think you very instinctively already know. But maybe your limiting stories and maybe societal conditioning for women and childhood factors. There could be many things that have conditioned you to forget that that is your birthright. So I think firstly, you have to accept that this is your innate birthright to be strong and sassy. And then secondly, to get started, can be the strong and sassy program, can be something else. It's up to you, but take your first step. Take baby step. You don't have to see the entire flight of stairs. You just have to see the first step and take the first step. The second step will very organically show up when you dare to. I think when you dare to take the first step, the universe, all the forces in the universe really is being activated to support you if you would just take the first step of faith. And my last bit of advice is please don't do this alone. You don't have to do it with a group of women who is like-minded. Do it, bring yourself into an environment that is nurturing, that is uplifting, with women who will support you and who will hold you accountable, and even practice tough love if when needed, so that we can all grow and blossom together. And if you have no idea where to go, hey, join us, join the She Network, join the She family. We would love to have you as part of the family. So take the first step, claim your birthright, and be part of a She family.
Awesome, Joy. Definitely. Thank you for that. And then you also have a free gift. So it's a free report on how you can be your strongest self during the pandemic, which is really awesome. So the tiny URL is right here on the screen. Everyone can see it. I'm gonna, just in case anyone can't see this for any reason, I'm just gonna read it out loud. So you want to type in https:// and then these words tiny. So the word tiny, TINY. And then the word it's not a word, but URL. So tinyurl.com/joylight. And that will take you to this free report that Joy has for you on how to be your strongest self during the pandemic. And I'm assuming that this works using positive psychology. And that's really great of you to offer this, Joy. And thank you so much. And then, I did want to introduce you with your bio. I see it below here, but thank you for putting that on there. I could read that. I guess we could do it backwards if you.
It's your show, Eddie.
Well, it's a really good bio. So here's Joy's bio. So again, she's the author of the She Pathway, which is a companion workbook to her autobiography, From Zero to Shakti. And then Joy is also the creator of the Joy Method and founder of She Network, producer of Strengths and Joy podcast. Now, Joy, is that this, or that's an actual, that's a podcast is where you listen, right?
Yes, it's a podcast.
Okay, awesome. Joy has also been empowering people since 2005 with a holistic approach, incorporating both conventional and unconventional but proven methodologies. And Joy began her training and coaching journey by empowering women through a body, mind, spirit philosophy. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, a graduate diploma in Applied Positive Psychology, and a postgraduate diploma in Positive Organizational Psychology and Leadership. She also has a diploma in Psychotherapy and is among the first in Asia to be certified by Marisa Peer for Rapid Transformational Therapy, RTT. You heard us talking about that. a little bit. And then today, she's a positive hypnotherapist, empowering people to celebrate strengths-based whole brain living using positive psychology and psychotherapeutic tools. She is fondly known as the superpower activator for her for her particular passion. Still better when you do it. In activating people's character and prevalent strengths through strengths development. So I think that was definitely worth reading. I mean, it kind of helps. It helps sum it up. So Joy, it's such a pleasure to connect with you again, and I'm so glad that you had StreamYard here because, again, for anyone who may be caught, we tried to do a podcast and we were unable to do it for probably tech issues. So I'm glad we were able to connect, and just thank you so much for all you're doing. It's so great to see you. And hey, and I'll see you next week. Next week, and we'll be back here in StreamYard, I'm assuming. And is there anything that you want to leave people with? Any final takeaways, or positive thoughts or reminders? Anything at all?
Well, I think likewise, like my advice earlier, put yourself in a nurturing environment where you have like-minded people so you can hold each other accountable. I think same thing if you want to do your own self-healing or you want to use positive psychology to support you. I think I really want to strongly recommend you to grab my free report. That is the 10 things that you absolutely still can do in this pandemic to be your strongest self. And I've written this report based on the research from positive psychology, and this link will also give you access to my fortnight newsletter, where I will be giving you more free resources and updates about our latest show, us interviewing other experts where they give their strategies and techniques. So this is something very simple that you can do right now, taking one small step forward, using research, using practical advice to support yourself in this pandemic. So please just sign up for the free report, and in the report there's pick up some action that you want to take based on what you have discovered, insights that you have discovered from the report. So take action. Nothing happens unless you act on it, and in this challenging time, everybody really, the time has never been more urgent for all of us to show up as our strongest selves. So let's do it.
Absolutely. I love that, Joy. Yeah. It's getting better. It's getting better. And so, Joy, that was amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to reconnect with you, and I will see you next week. Thanks again. Namaste.
Namaste.
Love you. I'll see you soon.
Love you. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
Thank you for being here, everyone. We'll see you on Facebook or maybe in the real world too. It's all the real world.
Okay, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Have a great night or a great morning wherever you are in this amazing world of ours. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.